Have you ever sat alone in a room and noticed the silence suddenly become too loud? In those quiet moments, something unexpected happens to all of us. Think of a night you've lain awake in the dark, 3 a.m., with nothing but the sound of your own heartbeat. You might reach for your phone, but soon even that distraction fails. The mind starts racing, replaying old memories, churning worries about tomorrow, or feeling oddly exposed. In a way, loneliness is exactly that sensation, your mind's spotlight turned inward. This isn't a breakdown, it's a breakthrough. You're not broken for feeling lost in the quiet, you're human. Philosophers from centuries past tell us that this ache of silence is telling us something important. Even Søren Kierkegaard insisted, there is not a single human being who does not despair at least a little, in whose innermost being there does not dwell an uneasiness and unquiet. Kierkegaard understood that feeling all too well. It means the silence is talking back to you, hinting that there's more inside you than you've been living. Invite engagement. If you're curious to learn how to turn that raw, silent encounter into strength and insight, hit subscribe and join me on this journey. We're about to explore what loneliness really is through the lens of philosophy and psychology, and how it can become a path to your personal power. We live in an age of constant connection, smartphones, social media, video calls, yet loneliness is an epidemic. Ironically, despite everyone being a click away, more people than ever report feeling painfully alone. Our high-tech world should protect us, but it often does the opposite. The World Health Organization has even warned that loneliness is as dangerous to health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. In fact, chronic loneliness can even damage the brain. Research links it to an increased risk of dementia and Alzheimer's. Even technology meant to connect us is partly to blame. In a recent survey, 73% of people said that technology contributes to their loneliness. Scrolling through friends, happy photos, or endless feeds late at night can reinforce that hollow feeling of missing something real. A whole evening of social media can make the emptiness feel like shouting into a void. In other words, those notifications and likes can actually make us feel louder in our loneliness, not less. How can this be? Part of the answer is that loneliness and solitude are very different feelings. You can feel lonely in a crowd or completely at peace in silence. Imagine two people in the same busy cafe. One, with head in hands, feels miserably alone despite the chatter around. The other listens to music on her headphones, sipping coffee, feeling content with just her own company. This contrast illustrates it well. Loneliness is the feeling of a lack and emptiness unmet. As Big Think writer Johnny Thompson puts it, to be lonely is to feel an emptiness that remains unsatisfied, to feel isolated, in need, or abandoned with no one to help. In other words, loneliness can sting like hunger for connection. Solitude, by contrast, is not suffering. It's choosing to be alone and enjoying your own company. It's stepping away from the noise and seeing the world clearly, including the world within yourself. Some thinkers argue we shouldn't be alone at all. Aristotle famously wrote, "Man is by nature a social animal. An individual who is unsocial is either beneath our notice or more than human." In Aristotle's view, society must come first. We really do need each other to thrive. Evolutionarily, communities kept us alive. From that perspective, spending time with people is not just pleasant, it's essential. But Kierkegaard and Schopenhauer would reply, being social is one thing, but knowing who we are when alone is another. They challenge the assumption that more people automatically means more meaning. They suggest that loneliness can be the mirror we ignore when we're too busy running in circles. Let's start with Kierkegaard, the 19th century Dane of the soul. Kierkegaard had no patience for sugarcoating human despair. He saw loneliness not as a problem to fix with distraction, but as a wake-up call. In The Sickness Unto Death, he describes despair as an inevitable part of being human, a kind of spiritual alarm. Kierkegaard would say, the despair you feel is inevitable, because at some level, everyone wrestles with who they are versus who they pretend to be. Imagine loneliness as a mirror reflecting back the gap between your true self and the persona you've been performing. We all wear masks, chasing grades, job titles, likes, and praise to fit into the crowd. At work or school you adapt, at parties you smile, on social media you post highlights. But when the crowd clears and the mask slips, you meet the real you alone in that room. That can be terrifying. Who am I when there is no audience? Kierkegaard calls this meeting with yourself despair, not ordinary sadness, but a profound reckoning. You realize you might have lived far away from who you are. Loneliness exposes the wounded child inside, along with forgotten dreams and desires. In those quiet moments, old fears or hopes that you buried under obligations may start screaming for attention. Kierkegaard warned that we often flee from this silence at all costs. Fleeing from silence is fleeing from truth, he said. Every time you reach for your phone notification, binge watch, or force a social gathering, maybe you're trying to avoid hearing the loud inner voice that says, something's wrong. According to Kierkegaard, that unquiet feeling is actually a spiritual alert. It's not insanity, it's authenticity knocking. In fact, Kierkegaard insisted that all of us carry this unquiet somewhere inside. If you truly believe you never feel despair, he provocatively suggests you're just very good at lying to yourself. The key is to ask yourself the questions loneliness brings up, not to numb them. Who are you when no one is watching? Can you sustain that person? One of Kierkegaard's famous ideas about this is dread or anxiety. He called it the dizziness of freedom. When the crowd's noise stops, you might suddenly feel a dizzy drop, the realization that your life could truly be anything. This can be terrifying because it means there is no fixed script to follow. But Kierkegaard saw this moment not as a collapse, but as a liberation. Embracing that freedom, however dizzying, is exactly what allows you to start writing your own story. Kierkegaard's own life reflects these struggles. He famously broke off his engagement to fully embrace a solitary life of thought, believing he would spare his fiancée the burden of his existential quest. He walked the streets of Copenhagen late at night, penning fierce pamphlets on truth. In his book, The Concept of Anxiety, he describes anxiety as the groundlessness of freedom. He asks us to turn into the storm, to face despair head-on, and in doing so, realize our capacity to remake ourselves. Now let's bring in Arthur Schopenhauer, the famously pessimistic philosopher. It might be surprising, but Schopenhauer loved solitude. He believed that true greatness often requires it. In his own blunt way, Schopenhauer said, "A man can be himself only so long as he is alone." For him, solitude was not a punishment. It was the very sign of freedom and strength. Only when you are alone, Schopenhauer argued, can you truly become yourself. Schopenhauer saw society as comfortable for those who are afraid of inner emptiness. Busy crowds and endless chatter numb us. He joked that people who hate being alone must be either beasts or gods, nothing in between. Ordinary folks, he observed, stay in crowds because it's easier than facing their inner lives. But those with an elevated mind actually crave the opposite. They seek solitude as a refuge from mediocrity. Think of solitude as an inner fortress. The walls and rooms are built not from stone, but from your own thoughts, passions, and creativity. Inside that fortress, you're safe from the noise that drowns out the depth of others. Schopenhauer's own life mirrored his words. He spent decades largely in seclusion, rarely leaving his room except for walks and coffee, preferring the company of his pet poodle to social gatherings. He once quipped that the normal hustle of society left him exhausted. He believed true clarity comes when you cut out the noise. Every spare moment away from others, he suggested, is a chance to recharge your mental batteries. Being alone in that fortress can be hard at first. When everything goes quiet, your internal monsters, fears, regrets, confusion may start howling. It's the hardest test, no distractions, just you and your thoughts. But Schopenhauer reminds us that bearing yourself is itself a mark of strength. A life constantly driven by external distractions is shallow. A life that learns to enjoy its own company runs deep. Both Kai. Kierkegaard and Schopenhauer converge on a key idea. What you carry inside determines how you feel about being alone. If there is nothing inside you to nurture, silence will feel like a void. But if you cultivate your inner life, your values, passions, and curiosity, then solitude becomes fertile soil rather than barren ground. Why do so many of us feel an aching void when alone? A big reason is how we're raised and conditioned. From childhood, we learn to seek worth outside ourselves. Good grades, impressive resumes, perfect social media profiles. We sculpt our actions to fit society's mold. Over time, we can lose touch with our own voice. We build an identity for the world, efficient, adaptable, successful on paper, but it may not match the person we truly are inside. Think of it this way. Society often hands us a script: go to school, get a job, settle down, and we follow it. When you're on that script, everything feels normal, but sit still long enough and you might notice a disconnect. For example, maybe you achieved that big promotion or degree you always chased, and for a moment you feel proud, then strangely empty. The silence asks you, did you chase that goal for yourself or because someone told you it mattered? As the poet Jacques Hadamard suggests, it's like there's an absent something. What steps into that quiet space when you remove the facade? Perhaps a wounded younger you, a long-forgotten dream, or a feeling of doubt. That is the real emptiness, the echo of your absence from yourself. The loneliness isn't just nothingness, it's something missing. You might realize you left pieces of yourself behind all along. Maybe you stopped playing music because your parents wanted something else, or you gave up a creative hobby to work more hours. Each of those sacrifices piled up until one day the silence punctured them. In that quiet, those old passions and pains can resurface, feeling intensely raw. This is exactly what your loneliness is trying to tell you. It's like a flashing warning light. Stop. Something important is being ignored. According to the writer we saw earlier, emptiness can force you to pause and rebuild. In other words, this emptiness is not a dead end, it's a signal. It's your unconscious saying, hey, we need to take a look at this. If you haven't been listening all along, it might shout. Think about it. If you've been living largely for external reasons, the silence will feel painful. But that pain is a clue. It shows you what truly matters. It whispers of the places inside you that are waiting to be rediscovered, your real values, dreams, and needs. Now the good news, loneliness doesn't have to be a dead end. It can be a beginning. It can be the start of discovering your authentic self. The journey starts with one simple act, acceptance. Take a deep breath and say it out loud. I am alone, it's okay, I'm safe. This might feel strange or uncomfortable, but this simple acceptance cracks open the old pattern of panic and flight. As one guide puts it, acceptance is the 0 point of reconstruction. You're not giving up, you're finally building a foundation on solid ground. Acknowledge your feelings without judgment, that's the first step back to yourself. Next, lean in and listen. Turn off the external noise if you can. Silence your phone, quiet the music. Sit and ask yourself gentle questions. What am I really feeling right now? What do I truly want that I may have ignored? What are the dreams I've shelved? These questions can sting, but they also begin to dissolve the defenses you've built. If it helps, grab a journal and just write without editing. Then create your own space. Use this solitude actively. Read a book that stirs your imagination, pick up a pen and draw, try a few lines of poetry, play an instrument, even walk in nature and breathe. These aren't punishments, they're invitations to be fully present with yourself. Schopenhauer observed that our greatest insights often arise when we're alone with our thoughts. By engaging in something meaningful, you flood the inner emptiness with purpose and possibility. To put this into practice, here are some steps you can take. Step 1, feel your feelings. When loneliness hits, say to yourself, this is how I feel and I'm okay. Don't push it away or beat yourself up. Accepting your emotions is the first step. As one guide noted, acceptance is the 0 point of reconstruction. You're not weak for acknowledging pain, you're courageous for facing it. Step 2, ask yourself why. Get curious about what lies beneath that loneliness. Journal or talk it through, even out loud to yourself. You might uncover unmet needs or old dreams. Psychology shows that understanding loneliness is key to freeing yourself from it. Step 3, carve out quiet time. Treat solitude as an important appointment. Even just 10 minutes a day to sit in silence, focus on your breath, or jot down thoughts can make a difference. Think of it as practicing with a muscle. The more you sit with yourself, the more at ease you become. Step 4, create something. Use solitude to do what fills you with energy. Write in a journal, paint, play music, dance alone in your room, exercise, or take up a hobby. These activities not only distract from negative thoughts but can transform them into something positive. Studies even show that deliberate withdrawal into quiet boosts creativity and problem-solving. Step 5, connect mindfully. Plan meaningful connections. One heartfelt conversation with a friend or family member can refill your social tank more than dozens of superficial chats. Focus on quality over quantity. Research shows that social media scrolling often leaves us emptier. Intentional in-person connection refills our sense of belonging. In fact, psychology even supports this journey. The existential approach to therapy literally treats loneliness as a starting point for self-discovery. Therapy, you're encouraged to explore your loneliness, not just escape it. Think of those quiet moments as opportunities. As author Michael Harris writes, they can provide opportunities to tap into ideas, perceptions, and emotions inaccessible to the social self. Remember, solitude is not the absence of others, it's the presence of self. Each day, make small choices. Look out a window without scrolling your phone, go for a solo walk and notice how you feel. Write one sentence about anything on your mind. Over time, you'll find that the silence isn't so scary. You'll build a richer inner life, one where even when external support is sparse, you're still whole. And if you ever feel afraid of your loneliness, that's okay too. Thomas Johnson wisely advised, if you are idle, be not solitary. If you are solitary, be not idle. Use your alone time constructively. If your solitude ever feels more like isolation, remember, balance is key. Of course, you might be thinking, this is all well and good, but some of us truly need people. I have depression or I grew up isolated. How is being alone better? These are valid concerns. It's important to note, not all loneliness is the same. Loneliness from depression, trauma, or social exclusion can be deeply painful. We do need people. Psychologists remind us that belonging is fundamental to human well-being. It's right near the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We absolutely honor that. The thinkers we've discussed had the privilege of choice. For someone who has been cast out or lost loved ones, loneliness can be devastating. In those cases, it's okay to reach out for help to friends, family, or a professio. Now, the advice here isn't a call to cut yourself off, it's a tool among others. If loneliness feels overwhelming, please seek support. You do not have to face this journey alone. Kierkegaard and Schopenhauer weren't saying everyone isolate yourself. They wanted people to engage honestly. Kierkegaard himself entered a community of faith later in life. Schopenhauer had a circle of friends he enjoyed. Their point was engage with the world as the truest version of yourself, not a hollow version built to please others. So yes, nurture your relationships. Go for coffee with a friend, laugh with a sibling, call your cousin. but now also ensure you're building your inner foundation. The goal is balance. We are social creatures who thrive on connection, but we are also individuals who must learn to stand on our own. If you ever feel stuck, like loneliness is swallowing you, remember, some loneliness is a treasure in disguise. As mythologist Joseph Campbell insightfully put it, drawing on Jung, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. The very quiet you dread may contain the treasure of your own self-discovery. You may find reserves of creativity, compassion, and resilience you never knew were there. In time, loneliness can transform into its opposite, solitude felt and chosen. Imagine it, an empty page in front of you. What will you write? With each whisper of longing or moment of ache that surfaced in solitude, you have been collecting clues. Think of the artists and thinkers you admire. Many found their voice in solitude. Authors like Jane Austen wrote quietly at home. Mozart composed in still rooms. Even those intimidating philosophers, from Kierkegaard to Schopenhauer, endured dark nights of the soul. They sat in silence and emerged creative and wise. If they could embrace solitude and find meaning, so can you. You might discover new passions. Maybe you start learning an instrument you once loved, or finally pick up that novel you'd always dreamed of writing. Maybe you take a walk at sunrise and finally notice how alive the world feels when you're fully present. These may seem like small steps, but they are huge victories over the emptiness you felt. Yes, the journey through loneliness can hurt like hell. The longing can feel like a sword. But at the end, there is something stronger: authenticity, peace, and an inner well of resilience. You've built a home inside yourself. Over time, you'll realize that what you thought you needed from others, you already had within reach all along. When the world falls silent and loneliness creeps in, you have a choice to make. Will you run, grab your phone, flip on the TV, stay busy? Or will you stay, breathe, and ask, what is this teaching me? Kierkegaard dared us to answer the question, who am I, when no one is watching? Schopenhauer challenged us to trust that whoever that is will be enough. In this lost and scared community, we're all walking this path together. Each step of acceptance, every bit of courage we share with each other. Now I want to hear from you. What will you do the next time solitude knocks? Will you learn its lessons? Drop a comment below and let's turn our thoughts into dialogue. If this journey spoke to you, subscribe and join our community of fellow explorers. Hit like if you're ready to transform your loneliness, and share this video with someone you know who needs to hear it. Let's turn this conversation into a chorus of understanding. Remember, you're not alone in feeling lonely. Even thinkers like Kierkegaard and Schopenhauer had to face their fears in the dark. They stayed, they listened, and they found something precious. If they could do it, so can you. You have yourself, and often, as it turns out, that is more than enough. You are stronger than you know, and this is just the beginning of your story.